Wow.
Wow. Wow, this is some really deep stuff. I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something. I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me. Because then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it. And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before. It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things, of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session. I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
I don't have anything to add other than asking you if you're ready for that, and if you feel like you are comfortable in doing that.
I am ready. I'm a little apprehensive about doing it, but I am ready, and I'm looking forward to it. I mentioned that we did this the other day briefly, and that was very interesting. And I will say that I feel like a lot of the frustration that I was experiencing as a result of what we talked about seems like it has resolved. Not that I'll never be frustrated again or short-tempered or rude, but I feel like, I've been in a different place for the last few days.
Interesting. That is good.
Mm-hmm.
I have similar experiences. It's efficient. Really? And I talk to a lot of other people who are new to IFS, and it's because we're all having the same experience of, wow, I tried this once or twice, and it's kind of incredible how quickly it seems to work. So.
All right. Well, I'm ready if you are.
Yeah, and of course, this recording can be deleted or cut out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm more interested in doing good work here than making a good show. So
okay, good. There we go.
I'm still learning.
All right. Well, so what do we do to get started? You said that you need to talk to the protector. So
the first thing I would do to get started is I would spend a minute in meditation, in just getting comfortable and taking some deep breaths if that's comfortable for you, or not if it's not, and just relaxing into this moment and just kind of tuning into any voices or parts that are vying for your attention, and maybe thinking about who you'd like to get to know a little better inside yourself. One way to do that is, you might just already know, or you might think of an event that bothered you recently, or an event that bothered you, and you had a reaction, and you'd like to, you can start with an event, or you can start with, I already know what part I want to talk to because it's saying this to me or whatever.
Okay, well, none of this has been prepared ahead of time. And so I'm not quite sure what part. I think I'd like to do something that would be, that a lot of people experience. There tend to be things that we think we're exclusive experiencing. And then we realize that everybody actually has these same feelings or experiences. And I'm trying to think of what that might be. What's kind of a universal situation that I might have been in.
Mm-hmm. The only advice I would give on that is I've heard other people who say it's easy to start with the critic, just because that's something that we all have is a critic, and that if you were to choose to talk to a critic, that's usually not going to be going as deep or vulnerable or whatever compared to other parts.
And that's a good place to start. Okay.
Yeah.
So, critic. I think one of my critics would be going back and forth between two options. So if I have to make a decision, I sometimes get stuck, and people would say, maybe I'm a procrastinator or something like that. It takes me a while to make a decision. But I think internally what I'm doing is I'm going back and forth between if I'm making the right decision or not. And I'm critical of the decision if sometimes I can be critical on both sides, whether I say yes or no to whatever it was. Sometimes I can be critical in just knowing whether or not it was the right thing to do.
Is that before the decision or after?
That probably comes after, I would say.
And is there like a message, or what does it sound like to when you hear that critic?
That I didn't explore all of the options, or I didn't have all of the facts.
Okay. When you're experiencing that, see if you can locate that feeling in your body, in or around your body. What does it feel like, and where?
I'm going to say it feels heavy, and it's kind of like maybe in the back of my throat, the back of my tongue or something.
Okay. Is it anywhere else, or is there any other?
Well, so around me, it sort of feels tight and closed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And continuing to just kind of look for qualities of that experience. Again, we're imagining this is a part. It has a voice. It says, that critical message that you hear, and it has a location. And so, can you put a face to it? Can you kind of see it as a being?
I think so, but it's a little odd. I mean, when we talked before, the protector that we were talking to looked like me, but this one seems to be green and kind of looks like a person.
Okay. And can you see yourself turning toward that green person, and just maybe imagining kind of inviting it to reveal itself a little more, to kind of come closer, or if you can get closer to it.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is the same, but I keep feeling dancing.
Okay. And again, this is the part that is critical or doubtful after a decision's been made,
Okay.
saying that could have been the wrong one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the dancing thing was a different intrusion.
Yeah, sure.
So staying with the part of me that feels critical after making a decision and doubtful whether or not I made the right one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Getting closer to that.
Yeah, we're just trying to deepen the access to it in any way you can, whether that's kind of through feeling or visually or.
Yeah, I can feel more in depth, more in tune with being part of it, or it being part of me.
Okay. And so, how do you feel toward that part of you?
Apprehensive about it because well, I feel like it's there to protect me, but I feel like I'm stuck. I want to say stuck in the mud. I feel like I'm stuck in the mud because then I'm going to be doubting whether or not this is the right thing.
Okay. So let's take that stuck in the mud part and see if you can ask the stuck in the mud part if it will give you a little space so that you can do this practice of getting to know the critical part, the doubting part.
Okay. Yeah, that feels very heavy, but okay. Getting to know the doubting part. So I feel like the doubting part is a secondary. I feel like there's something else in front of it.
Sure, they're all invited. So whatever's coming up.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Not wanting to be wrong. When I doubt myself, it's a matter of not wanting to be wrong or make the wrong decision, or put myself in a position, I guess, where I can't undo something that I've done. Causes me to procrastinate. Okay. So that feels like it's freeing up a little bit, just sort of talking through that. The part that felt stuck in the mud seems to have kind of gone off a little ways.
Yeah, given it a name and kind of validated its existence and and recognized or felt that it's not needed right this moment.
Okay. Yeah, I could go for that.
Yeah. And when you're talking to these parts, you can just see yourself really addressing them directly as like, sometimes they do go do what they do on their own, but you can also just, as your whole self can kind of speak to them. You can ask them questions, you can make requests and see how they react. So how do you feel now toward that doubting part?
I sort of feel open, like a little curious about why I'm doubting, or what's the need for that.
That's great.
I'm capable of looking at the information or the options and following through. So I don't know why do I need to be so doubtful about things.
Okay, great. So let's ask that part. Ask it, what does it want you to know when it's making you feel that way, doubtful? And it's getting your attention that way.
So some decisions can't be reversed. And then I want to say you're stuck with them. They're yours once you've made the decision. If you can't reverse it, then it's yours. And you might not want it.
And is there anything else that it wants you to know when it's getting your attention that way?
Yes, to just be careful, just be cautious.
Mm-hmm.
And I told it I am.
And can you imagine or see yourself showing it some appreciation for looking out for you, and being cautious, and kind of just validating that those decisions could be permanent and that you will have ownership of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how does it react to that? You kind of showing it that appreciation.
Yeah, it seems grateful. Yeah, it feels like it was, just like a need to make sure that I was aware of it. It feels open to being accepted that way.
One question it might have already answered is, what is it afraid? What is it afraid of happening if it doesn't give you that feeling?
Let me see. I feel like if it's not warning me, then it was concerned that
you can just ask. You can just ask it and wait for the answer. So you can just.
Okay.
I should have said that. It's just kind of. Yeah. What are you afraid will happen? Directed at the part.
Okay, I keep getting so that it needed to warn me. But what are you afraid will happen if you don't warn me? Wrong, then you'd be wrong. You'd make the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting response because, there are people that are perfectionists,
mm-hmm.
and then some people might think, that in some ways I'm a perfectionist. I don't think of myself as a perfectionist, but I realized this a couple of years ago through personal development. I just don't want to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting that we kind of ended up at this point because that is true. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want it to be wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happens if I'm wrong, but you know why that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's wrong sometime.
Yeah. And you can ask it any of those questions that you have You might ask it, why doubt after the fact, after the decision?
Hmm. I sort of feel like it's a life preserver, like tossing a life preserver into the water, you know, it's a way to reverse if you need to.
Mm-hmm. And now how do you feel towards that part?
Well, I think I would like to be able to sort of morph that into something more effective and appropriate for me at this time in my life.
Yeah. So, and then
I
this,
feel a little frustrated that it's been there so long and sort of interfering with my moving forward.
yeah. So, in this time, which we're actually getting near the end of our coming to know this part, our goal is to come to know it. So we're going to ask the frustrated part to give you some space so you can
Okay.
complete your getting to know this part.
Okay.
And see
Yeah.
and see how that reacts.
I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If you could change the thing that it's protecting, it's trying to keep you from being wrong, for example. If you could change that, what other role would this part like to have inside of you? What else would it like to be doing instead?
Oh, let me see. I don't know, what else could that part do? See, now I get to weigh my options and make a decision.
You can show it some alternatives. You can show it some alternatives, but again, you can just ask it what it would like to do with that energy that it has. And it's if it didn't have to protect you.
So that feels like a more forward energy, like a moving forward, as opposed to being more of a stopper. It feels like it's opening and rolling forward. And being more accepting of myself for the decisions that I do make, even if they're wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that going forward idea, that comes up with me a lot.
Does it?
With my parts, yeah. Because they do still have their what they are, and they do have their energy, and it's like they do want to be. They're still pushy, but they're motivating pushy instead of pushing down pushy. You know, sometimes.
Okay. Sort of pushing you forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the feeling I get.
Yeah, it felt really forward when you brought that up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it has anything else it would like to elaborate on what that would look like for it, I would just ask if it has anything else to share on that, on what its role would look like. And sometimes that's, sometimes it's hard to put in words and
No, it feels like it's moved off to the side and is writing. So writing, and then the decision comes out of that, and then it's forward. So that there's like 3 steps to that.
So helping in the planning and deciding process.
Yeah.
And while we have it, ask it how old it thinks you are, and just wait for an answer.
32.
Mhm. And if that's not your real age,
Okay.
will you go ahead and update it on what your real age is and just see how it reacts?
Okay. Mhm. So it feels like there's a big span there. It was surprised that there was such a big span.
And can you ask it what it needs from you in the future?
So when I get the information, he whatever says to put it over here, put the information over here on the desk so he can write it down, and then it goes that way.
Okay, kind of compartmentalize or organize the information maybe more clearly.
Mhm.
That makes sense to you. You can see that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, well, yeah, I would let it know that you hear that message and that that's something you can integrate.
Okay.
And ask if there's anything else to tell you about what it would like for you to do differently. And if not, I would just say thanks. Thank it for doing its job. Thank it for stopping by. And
No, it said make sure that you send the information.
it really wants to be sure that you do that. Yeah. Is there something you could do now to help it, know that you're taking it seriously? Sometimes I get out my calendar and say, okay, I'm doing it, the thing. Sometimes sometimes I need to make another date with that part to get more information from it. But yeah, if there's something specific that it's wanting you to do,
Okay, well, I have a decision coming up, so I'm going to, I'll have some time this afternoon and I'll be sending some information over to that desk that we can work on.
Yeah.
I have a decision today. Okay.
And how does it feel about all that?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, that feels very free and not necessarily light, but maybe light. Remember in the beginning I said it was heavy.
Yeah.
It feels very free and up is the word up. That's kind of how it feels. And yeah.
Okay. Well,
that was fun.
Thank the part and
okay.
Take some deep breaths and come on back. That's it.
Okay. Well, that was fun.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
I find it fun.
I like the visual that that I'm supposed to send the information over here and it's going to flow on out. That's really cool. Yeah. Now, when I feel a little stuck in the mud, I can sort of gather up my information and send it over to the side there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to meet some other parts while you were in there, the frustrated part and this and that, and yeah, they're all good to get to know, and it can be that quick.
Wow.
They got something they want to tell you, and then they can stop.
Wow.
Pushing you around as much, I think.
That is really cool. So following up with that, we've had 2 sessions. I feel like I'm getting like a little bit of an idea of how this would go, but I think if I were going to follow up with that on my own, I would need to put it on the schedule so that I made time to sit and do this.
Mm-hmm.
So where would I find information that would help me to organize getting back in touch with it if I wanted to do that?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would suggest is just to do it the way that you do it. to check in with yourself. Like, you know that part now. You've seen its energy, and you might write down a note or two about it's this green part that has this heaviness in my throat, and it comes up at this time, and it's afraid of this. You could take notes about it, but now that you've taken that time to identify it, anytime that you would sit and spend 3 or 5 minutes and just check in with your parts, just what's going on in there. Does this person need me? Does that person need me? And hear from them. It doesn't. I'm sure there are prescribed ways to do that, but I would start with just whatever feels intuitive for you, because it's such a listening process too. Just ask them what they need. So
Okay.
I just incorporate it in my meditation every day. I just have 5 minutes. I do it right before I go to bed. A lot of times that's when some of them are getting loudest. It's like quiet all day long. And now you're screaming about this stuff. Okay. Take 5 minutes. Who is this person yelling in my head? What do you have? What's up?
Okay. So I could do that. I could make it like part of my routine before I go to bed or something like that, and see how that works.
One good practice is just if you're journaling, just to, again, 3 or 5 minutes, and just write down every phrase, everything that comes up.
Okay.
And you might identify 5 or 8 different parts, all kind of pushing and shoving for your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just write, it would kind of help you identify them.
Okay. I like that you asked the other ones that sort of seemed like they presented themselves, if they could just move to the side so that we could go back to the one that we initially started with, because I might have gotten sidetracked with some of the other stuff, but that was good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, so, that's kind of getting to know a protector. So the kind of next level, to get to know an exile, for example, we would kind of talk to a protector, make sure that they're giving space, kind of like we just did, and then we would be doing more of the getting to know the thing that it was protecting. It's protecting a fear of being wrong, and that's there's something that's been humiliated or afraid or sad, or there's a hurt part that gets hurt, that feels hurt when you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And so that would be kind of the exile work, is like, okay, now we've talked to this protector, we appreciate this protector, we understand its role, and now we can talk to that part that it's trying to push down.
Okay.
And the process looks very similar, because it's talking to a part, getting to know it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I can do that.
Yeah. Any other questions about what we did, or?
Not offhand, but what, maybe in a couple of days after I try it on my own, and see how that goes. But
it's interesting that your different parts think that you're a different age.
Yes, because the other day I was 12 and now I'm 32. Mm-hmm. This other part thought I was 32. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why that is, that happens, but it might have something to do with, when they were called to action. Maybe you weren't making decisions that were permanent, and you might doubt. That wasn't a big part of your process or something until you were 32. Mm-hmm. And the other part, maybe it didn't have anything to protect until you were 12, for example. So by looking at that too, it's like, okay, not only can I see what you're doing and why you're doing it, but I can see when you kind of started kicking in, perhaps.
Yeah.
And what that might be about.
Is why it started kicking in important in the process?
I mean,
maybe as we go on.
I think all the information's important fundamentally. I mean, we're trying to understand them is really the goal, and not pathologize them, and not the work gets done through understanding them. So I will say that when it comes to working with exiles, they've been hurt generally. Something went wrong and they're upset about it. And there is usually like a process of witnessing that and saying like, okay, rather than protecting and ignoring that, tell me what happened. Like, let's go through it. And then you have these memories that might be painful. So a lot of that is often tied to a certain age. So yeah, I got to know my 2-year-old the other day. And
how was that?
I remembered things that I just can't think of last time I ever thought of these things, and the way that they were tied together. It's like I kind of had these individual memories. It's like, oh yeah, I remember the time that happened. I remember the time that happened. But this part of me, which was maybe 2, 3, or even 4-ish, it was like, this all happened to me. This all was one set of things. And then, so rather than seeing these as just, I didn't have them filed away as all happening to this me. They were just pictures in my mind of, remember the time that happened. And so having that kind of framework of like, okay, that deeper understanding of what it meant to me as to the 4-year-old. That was helpful.
Okay, well, I could see where this would be very freeing in sort of getting rid of a lot of stuff that we carry around. And I could see how also it would sort of manipulate our lives into different, different routes, or different, in this case, especially making different decisions or not making decisions.
Yeah.
So
one thing I forgot to introduce is just that there's one more concept, which is that there is a self, there is a part, there is a you that isn't a part. That's, you can kind of think of that as your higher self, maybe. It's when you're curious about a part, well, that you isn't a part. That you is your naturally curious and confident and compassionate kind of ground of being that is actually there all the time, and it's capable of recognizing the other parts. And so you can kind of think about our lives and our decisions as we're often kind of driven by one part or the next, that we're spurred on by a part, but there's this kind of deeper self that we could act from if we could just with these parts
if we get the other parts to quiet down
a little bit.
We can really attach to our core and operate from the core.
Yeah.
So that would be sort of a goal.
Yeah, the goal is to generate more self-energy.
More self-energy, okay.
Mm-hmm. Bring more of our self-energy to the world. And that's
I like it.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Zikri, for your care and diligence in editing the calls, to every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts, and to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.